welcome back to Work in Progress with Nicole Engelmann. This is the second part of my conversation with Tania Chakraborti. She's a messaging and marketing strategist, and now we're talking more about practical tips. So I guess one of the things is, how should you start thinking more strategically about your messaging, your marketing messaging?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if you've never thought about your marketing message, and it's absolutely fine if you haven't, a really good starting point is to ask those kind of very foundational questions about your business, because often messaging comes from business strategy. And if you've got that kind of nailed, then it comes more organically. So the kind of things that you can ask yourself or audit are things like, well, who is my target customer? Like, who is my ideal client? And then really describe them. So in marketing speak, it's like your demographics and then your psychographics. So with demographics, you're looking at like, where are they based? How old are they? What's their profession? Like really sort of, very easy answers to sort of write down, get a piece of paper and just write those down. And then your psychographics are like looking more about their mindset. So you're thinking about things like, what motivates them, like what are they struggling with right now at work or in life. If you're a life coach, for example, it's a big part of that. How do they consume their content? Where do they consume their content? What kind of content do they like? Really start to write down almost like an avatar or a profile of what this customer is for you. And then you also have to have that kind of additional element, which is like their kind of price bracket. So what can they afford? Why would they invest in your service? What is a high ticket customer look like versus say a low ticket customer? And then you also have these idea about funnels and how would you nurture one to become another? If you get that down, then it becomes a lot easier to understand what content you're going to gear towards them. And then once you've done that, so that's more of a kind of marketing strategy basis. It has to be done. Then you look at competitors and your position. So in the market, who do you serve in relation to your competitors? Because there's going to be lots of people, particularly in the solopreneur space, who do what you do. It's just fact. It's a fact of being a solopreneur, right? But then you have to think about what the differentiator then becomes your story. And that's why I think it's slightly different to like a big B2B company. When you think about positioning for companies like EasyJet, their positioning is quite clear that they're cheap flights, rubbish service, and they know they're doing that. They know that in relation to British Airways or Emirates, like that's their positioning, and that's what they're known for. Your positioning is basically like what you're known for in the market. So when you're a solopreneur, really, then it becomes like your differentiator is your story. So write down the story that led you to who you are today, and not like the made up story, like the thing that you think people want to hear. I'm talking about the thing that really guides you. It might be something that happened to you, like, to you as you, before you even became a business owner, like, think formative experiences that made you, have the belief system that you have. And you write that down and you really think about that. And then that plus your core customer offering, your service offering, that's built on your professional experience. And that the marrying of those three things, your target customer, your story, and your offer, that becomes a really core tenet of messaging. Whereas positioning is about how you want to be known in the market. That is like, messaging is like the layer below. It's like you've sorted that out, you've worked out your target customer and all that kind of strategic elements of that. Messaging is like the unique framework for how you speak about that. And that might be your target, like, or the content you write about. So I want to be known for talking about positioning, messaging, and copy. So that's what I talk about all the time. I want to be known for, being fun and colorful and these sorts of things that become like sort of describer words. And then you speak to that always. And then copy or video content or, imagery, that becomes the vehicle for that message. So if you're not ready yet to know exactly what it is, start with those questions. They seem long, but once you've written those down on like pen and paper, just jot it down and you'll already feel like so much closer to that. So yeah, that's what messaging is.
Okay, brilliant. And how would you make sure that's reflected on your website, even like the homepage, because it's obviously the shop front of your business and the first thing people see?
Yeah, I think the reason why I always bang on about a website is because if you're new to it and you haven't really yet got your marketing strategy in place, your website is a great place to be that kind of tester for your message. And I've worked on countless websites in my time. Some really good, some needing some more work, across lots of different industries. And it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or even like a massive business, your website's always going to be where your ads go to, or people click on your website from your social posts. So it has such a important like strategic place in your marketing strategy. So A strategic homepage kind of like framework. There's all about 6 sort of key things I put in your homepage, and it kind of goes down the page. I always say with messaging, always start with your customer. Like, what is the customer transformation you deliver, rather than talking about how great you are straight away. Start with that. So in your hero section, that's the bit you have above the fold of your website. You want to be sort of saying how you help, who you help, and why, and that's kind of what they want to get from it, with a strong call to action. And when you look at that, that's basically the first 5 seconds. Can the customer look at the website and go, am I in the right place? Is this for me? So I think when you see homepages start to kind of go a little bit, in the wrong direction, is when it's all about them, like all about you in the first 5 seconds. Yes, it's about you, but it's how you help them. So that's how I would think about framing that. And as you go down the page, you then have I always call it the problem section. So you speak to the first 2 or 3 really core problems or struggles your customer is facing. So if you're like a life coach, it might be self-doubt or self-belief. If you're working in nutrition, it might be people, how they feel about their image or their self-consciousness. Like, it's really core belief systems you speak to here, not just kind of 5th order benefits like how you save them time or things like that. It's really like the core gut punch. You want to talk to that in the problem section. And then what's really good about that framework moving into your solution is then you've gone, that's the problem, here's how I solve it. And that's where it gets really meaty, because you can talk about your offer in a really clear step-by-step way. And then I like to lead into like an about section. That's where you can really go into town about, like, I'm the reason, like, you're here for me because I can help you solve that problem with my solution, and here's my experience to back it. So that's where you get to your about section. You go, I've been 10 years in business doing this thing, helping people like you to solve that challenge. And then we always want to have in a good website is a process section. So explaining like kind of a little bit about how you help them, like step by step, followed by a good strong call to action. So you have 2 types of calls to action. You have like direct calls to action, which is like, book a call with me, let's get your session booked in, let's get you on the step to experiencing that customer transformation, let's go. And then you have transitional ones, which are things like, connect with me in my newsletter to get great tips on your marketing strategy, or, follow my podcast for tips on X, Y, and Z. So that's transitional. Why you need that kind of thing is it helps people stay in your world. And what's good about thinking about the fact that you need a transitional one is it forces you to go, do I have a transitional one? Do I have content I can send them to, or an Instagram page, or places where they can find me and really buy into my world? And so why I like to look at websites is, you think it's just copy. And for a lot of people, like, getting your website out is just copy. Get it out there, and it's great to have a first iteration. When you're like a year or 2 or 3 years into your business, you really want to kind of start to level up that, to use that phrase, level up that element of your business, which is that strategic element. Like, your website is your all-in-one storefront. People will come to you, they have no idea who you are. They might have seen a piece of content and just clicked on your website. People might be actually credentialing whether they want to work with you and ready to buy. And there's people will go to your website for all elements of that user journey, which is why it's important to think so strategically about it. So yeah, that's the the long and short of what I think personally, having worked on so many of these. And you can see, once someone makes those impactful changes, it really changes the conversion rates on those websites, the traffic. I've seen those spikes in data, and also just in how that person who's done that change feels about their business, and then they go and they speak so much more confidently about it because they've kind of hit those strategic points.
Yeah, that's really important. And I love the callback to the first part of the conversation.
Easter egg, if you go back and listen to the first part, you'll see that the word level up is, it's a no-go.
Yeah. Out of interest, so because you said like the first part is the hero section, what is your hero section? What's the first part that's been said on the top of your homepage?
Ooh,
Like, who are you talking to? Yeah.
So I'm never going to say anything is perfect that I do. Like, even my website is
Yeah.
work in progress, which is the aim of this
Yeah.
podcast, right? So I speak to, so my hero section is this, and you can tell me in the comments or wherever if you hate it or detest it. But it's, you're incredible at what you do. You just don't know how to say it yet. I help passionate founders, like solo founders like you, shape a message that's rooted in brand and marketing strategy, true to your voice, and destined to move your people. Book your free call. So that's like, you've got the call to action, you've got the who I help is really called out. Hopefully it's emotive. And then I also I work on positioning and messaging. So it's about how you show up and I know that founders are really good at their core business. What I want to do is help them articulate it better in a way that aligns with who they are. So I always workshop it. Your hero's never done. I probably will change that by the time this goes out
Yeah.
next week. But it's just about like what really like aligns to speaking to them and their emotional needs. And like how do you solve their problems? So although it is about me, it's also mostly about them. So that's what I
Yeah.
kind of mean about highlighting or spotlighting the customer transformation that you're going to deliver or help them deliver.
Yeah, and I love that. That's the thing. Like, I'll help you see how amazing you are. You're already good. We just need to communicate this to the world because that's
Yeah.
where most people struggle. Like, they know they're, excuse the language, shit, but they don't always know how to convert this or like make it visible to others. Because again, it feels a bit icky, right? Or braggy. I think, especially as women, to say, I'm amazing, come and work with me. Where it's, you run a business, so you have to stand up for yourself and tell people that you are amazing and that you can help them be amazing too, or show the
Sure.
world how amazing you already are. So I love
Yeah.
that about the hero page.
Well, thank you. I think what you said there is like resonating in the idea that sometimes you just need someone else. It doesn't even have to be someone like me, like a marketing strategist. Like although investing in it is always helpful, but when you have someone who knows you really well, or or someone who understands marketing, it's great to soundboard with them because you'll find that there are things about you didn't even realize. Like you get asked these kind of questions. I think if you can ask yourself those tough questions, you'll already be like so much closer. Because sometimes like I've had clients where like I've done a story strategy session with them, and I do two types of strategy sessions. I do an information station where we go through all that kind of marketing speak context, and then we do the story sort of thread with them, which is where we go through their mission, their vision, their goals, and we actually align it to like sort of a strategic, what like sort of step by step that the user journey goes through. And they find that there's things that I've had strategy sessions where they think their story is one thing, and we talk through it. And I had one client who literally went through such incredible experiences and came out and really came through adversity and shone, and then helped their clients to shine. And they weren't talking about it ever. I didn't think that was the story they wanted to tell, but we had that kind of conviction to really talk about it. And by that afterwards, they were talking about it on podcasts and in their content, and it became a real structured topic pillar they wanted to speak about. And I think once you ask yourself those tough questions, you get that confidence to go, hang on a minute, I can own this story because it's my own. And then it becomes almost like the core of your element of your messaging. Whereas before you might have been going, well, I need to talk as a marketing strategist, I need to talk about my master's degree, am I in this and that and the other. And actually, like, those are important and they do qualify you as competent at what you do. But equally, people want to work with people. And if they know your story, you've gone through that stuff and you've come out the other end and you've literally built this thriving business because of it. They want to hear that.
Yeah.
So I think if you can ask yourself those questions, that's why I think always start with your website, because you'll find you'll start to come up with these things you never thought of as you're going through this kind of. And I have a workbook people can work through to kind of get them thinking about
Hmm.
this, which I'll share with you. But it is such a powerful kind of asset for you. It's more than just your storefront. It's almost like the vehicle for that message.
Yeah. So how do you start thinking about the guide to your customer's hero then? Is that the workbook you have, or is there something else?
So the workbook is more just for if you're ready to kind of like look at your website and fix it in a way that feels more authentic to you. And you do look a bit about in the workbook, there's a little bit about it. So I talk a lot in my content about, it's not my theory, I'm not gonna say it's mine. It's a very famous marketing consultant called Donald Miller, and he's a thing called story branding, which is the idea that no matter, I talk about this a lot because I'm so passionate about it, is that no matter if you're a business or you're looking at the best films that have ever existed, like Lord of the Rings, or like even like Devil Wears Prada, like every single story you've ever seen or read or thought of follows this principle, unless it's a horror film. Yeah, slightly different. But in the best stories you could ever think, and I want you right now, if you're listening, to think about your favorite film, and you'll notice that these tropes exist time and time again. So in your favorite film, you'll have your heroes. For me, my favorite film is Back to the Future. Bloody love that film. Don't ask me why. I just think it's bloody brilliant. And you have Marty McFly, and he's your hero. And Doc Brown, if you've ever seen it, he's the guide. He's Marty's guide. And without Doc, guiding him through his process plan, how he's going to get back from 1955 back to his 1985, he has to follow these step-by-step processes. And it can either end in success or it can end in failure. And what keeps you through the story is knowing that, you know, either way, you know, Marty's either going to get to 1985 and not disappear forever. If you've not seen the film, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling it. Or he's going to make it back, and he's going to be back with his girlfriend, back with his family, and he's going to reunite his family and be back with them. And that's what pulls you through the story. That is what gets you from A to B and watching the whole film. It's the same in business. These elements of like you're it also helps you think about the fact that you're not the hero of the story. I'm not the hero of my client's story. I'm not there to be like, I'm amazing at marketing, I'm going to help you do amazing no, I'm their guide. And ultimately it's on them whether they succeed or, you know, they get to where they want to go with their business, you know, through looking through the step by step. And their clients have the same thing, right? So the guide provides them a process plan, which is basically like, if you follow step X, Y, and Z through working with me, you will achieve X, Y, and Z, and it'd be amazing. What is the cost, very quiet hum, of not doing this thing? What could happen if you stay in inaction or stay in the place you're in now? And that story really relates to business. And I think it's an incredible way of thinking about, you know, and I would urge you to read the book. It's called Building a Story Brand. It's a new version of it too. But I love that feeling of just thinking about your business like a story, because we all buy into stories. You know, you don't have, you know, no matter where you're from or what you do. So I think if you ever have that thing where you're like, well, you know, how do I help my customer? Just think about yourself as their guide, and as their guide, what are you trying to help them achieve? And what is the cost of inaction of not working with you? You don't scream that out in all your messaging, by the way. There is definitely an art to it, but there's a quiet hum of, that's the problem section, really. That's of your homepage, for example. It's like, these are the problems that we need to solve that you're feeling right now. And it's subtly implied, if you don't work with me, or not with me, but if you don't somehow find a way to not work through those things, you'll continue to be in that cycle of whatever those problems that they're feeling are. So it's a really powerful way of thinking about business and marketing strategy.
Definitely. Can you repeat the title of the book again? Because I think there was a little audio glitch.
It's called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's really interesting. I think there's a lot of marketing books out there just really like heavy.
Yeah.
And I did a master's in strategic marketing, and all the books are very like, you know, business words, very scary language, jargon. And actually, I think if people start to think about marketing as like, it's an art form as well as a science. I think when you study marketing, you get down more the science route. And I did a lot of my background of my early career in more like data marketing and looking at data, and that's super important. But I think data follows good storytelling, so that's why I'm so obsessed with looking at ways to see marketing as like a vehicle for just like more authentic messaging, really.
Brilliant. And I'm now starting thinking of you as the Doc Brown of marketing strategy.
I would love that. I used to get that on a t-shirt.
That could be a tagline.
I love that. Yeah, 100%. I love that film. I think I've seen it about a billion times. That and The Mummy, which I don't understand why, like the
Oh, I
Brendan.
love The Mummy.
Don't
So
you?
I think,
Isn't it great?
yeah, I love it. So Back to the Future, actually, I mean, I've seen like once or twice, and then you see bits because it's always on TV. But I know a lot of people think it's the best film ever. But yeah, The Mummy is kind of, I think I always watched it with my mum. I was like 11 or 12 when it came out. I was always scared about the mummies, even though they were funny as well. It's the best movie ever.
Well, for me, this is such a digression, but I have really bad eyesight, like -9. And I always see that scene where, like, spoiler again, like the guy's glasses fall off, and he's like, "Where are my glasses? I can't find my glasses." And then the mummy
Yeah.
comes in his face. And as like a 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, this is a real fear."
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
one of those, it's actually interesting as a metaphor for business, I guess, as well, because the movie itself has so many genres, because it's kind of horror, it's kind of a comedy, it's a romantic thing, it's just an adventure and a kind of a thriller as well. And I guess in a sense that your business is also not just one thing, and
No.
your story isn't just one thing either. So it's really interesting to kind of look at it from that side as well, and just kind of find what fits with your business as well.
Yeah, like people say a lot about niching down, and that's interesting because I have this feeling, you know, uh, unfortunately, there's going to be a part of you that will have to niche a bit. Because I know there's a lot of talk out there about you shouldn't niche, you shouldn't devalue all the things that are good about you. You have so many different elements to you, so why should your business be like that? I think the problem with that sentiment is ultimately you have to be known for one thing or one or two things. unless, you know, and I know that there's some really good coaches out there that are known for being the multi-passionate coach, which is fantastic, but that is still a thing. It's still a position, niche. I think ultimately one day you're going to have to decide what you love doing and what you want to be known for. And you could have different arms and branches, like a tree. You could have different branches to that, but they all sit within the same tree. You don't have like an oak tree and then a laburnum all in one tree. You have one tree, and there's different branches to that and different elements to that. And the leaves kind of make up the top, like the things you want to talk about, the topics you want to talk about, but it's still within the niche of what you're known for. And you can always evolve your business, and that becomes an evolution of your marketing strategy. But I think that you still have to try one thing or one or two things that you do well to learn if that's not right for you. And then when you have that core competency of what you're known for, you can build on that. Those foundations can grow, and you can diversify. But I think with niching, with, you know, that's why it's good to always think about what's my message right now in this iteration of my business, because it will always evolve. If you do that right, you can build it like foundation blocks. Whereas if you don't niche to begin with, then it's kind of a little bit less stable. So that's why I'd say on that. I know you didn't ask me that question, but it got me thinking.
No, I totally get it. And the other thing is, like, just because you're, you know, you have a target and you're niching something doesn't mean you repel everyone else. I'm currently doing a program called Watch Us Grow with Jess Bruno, and one of the things she mentioned, think of it as if you're in Wembley and you're basically talking to your first row or the first two rows. Those are your, I guess, your heroes, kind of thing, like the people you want to attract. But there's still a full arena there, so you still attracted other people. They still are attracted to your message and what you do,
Yeah.
or to your music, because it's an arena. But you're talking to the first row, those are the super fans, and
Yeah.
then everything else might follow.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Nicole. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. For sure. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's not mine, I stole it. But
Right.
it really stuck with me, because that's literally, that shifts a lot how you see it, because people tell you to niche down, right? And then, yeah, I don't want to repel anyone or like turn away someone that's, you know, would be a really good in project, even though it's not the main thing I do, or
Yeah.
the you know, like sometimes I work a lot with one-to-one with small businesses, but I also have some corporate clients. But I'm not talking on Instagram about my corporate clients, because
Yes.
that's not the main thing I attract. They just find me somehow. And sometimes they find me through my one-to-one small business clients, because those have connections and former, you know, colleagues that are then are looking for headshots for their company. If done right, it kind of works together anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also mentioned like LinkedIn, like there are different channels as well for certain iterations of your message. I work with B2B clients on larger projects because my background is in tech. Like I still love doing that kind of thing, but my main passion is solo founders. So my messaging is split like 70-30 or even like 80-20 towards solo founders. And that's why on Instagram, I only speak to solo founders, but it's slightly different on other channels. I think when you know kind of the makeup of your, who you want to attract in, you can always kind of like build that composition or use different channels to do that. It doesn't mean you have to like sacrifice talking about different things. It's just about where are you talking about, what's got kind of message as well is also super important. So think about the channels you're using, and what the makeup of that audience is.
How would you, because you just mentioned, like, you know, 20% corporate and 80% small business, how do you put those two together on your website? Like, how would you strategically communicate that and not, you know, exclude one or the other?
It's a really good question. So when I do this with clients, and it's actually when a client comes in, they will have corporate clients, they might have all corporate clients, particularly coaches as well, because some coaches will go in and do talks, for example, in a corporate setting, but they work one to one for their coaching. So it's a very normalized path, I think, for coaches. So what we always do is like, well, okay, who you most like to book as lead generation through your website? Let's look at that. And then often what ends up happening is most of the messaging is towards the one that becomes the biggest source of revenue or their biggest driver in their business. That becomes most of the messaging there. And what's good about websites is you could have a separate page just for your corporate bookings. And for my website, for example, it's the homepage is all about really my one-to-one clients, but at the bottom I have a bit about B2B clients with some credentialing of quotes from some of my B2B companies I've worked with. And so it's a little bit there. It's exactly how I mentioned it there, like 80-20. And like it's just lower down the page. It's slightly less obvious. But if someone is looking for you, they will find it. And that's the important thing. And eventually your business might grow and alter, and you might want to change the composition of that slightly. So when we do a session with my clients, I'm always like, let's look at all your target customers, but we're still only going to pick 2 or 3. because you can't have 7 or 8. You have to have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And let's look at their very different messages for both audiences. Which is why often these founders on their website will have a different page or on their services page will have different drop downs and elements, because you cannot speak to 2 very different audiences in the same way, but you will have a foundational core value point that will link both of them together. So I always start with each type of client, and we go through everything I mentioned earlier, target customer, where they hang out demographically, psychographically, all that stuff. You do that for every type of customer you have, because ultimately they will be different, and the decision makers in corporate are very different. You have a multi-decision maker, multi-stakeholder unit for a B2B corporate company. They will have to take your website and send it to their boss, maybe the person you're speaking to credential and say, yeah, cool, sign it. So you'll have to speak to them. You have to also speak to your one-to-one. So we do the work for both of them. And then we look at the commonalities, right? Okay, what are the commonalities value-wise between the two? Often corporates are trying to help their employees. So there's going to be some commonalities between the employees, like the onward value proposition almost, and your one-to-one clients. And that becomes like the core root of your, say, hero. And then you sort of use the rest of the page to unwrap that. So there are ways around it. It's just about thinking about each of your types of clients as separate. They talk about the multi-fans in Wembley Stadium, right? Your super fan is different. Like internally, their feelings towards you, what motivated them to book the like £2,000 like stadium ticket right at the front, versus someone in the back who maybe spent 60 quid but still want to enjoy your music, is they're probably still discovering you. The 60 quid ticket person at the front is ready to invest. So they have different motivations, different budgets, different things that got them. They're probably super fans of music in general. So they're where they hang out, where they experience music might be in different platforms. So they're different people in the same place and same arena. So I love that you use that example, because yeah, long-winded, but everyone's different.
No, it's fine. It's like the restricted view versus the VIP experience kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I'm always at like that person who's stuck behind the pillar and like at the I'm like, oh, I get that.
Or you get a good seat and the really tall person is in front of you.
Always. I'm 5'3", so it's always the story.
Yeah. Brilliant. So also, because the podcast is obviously called Work in Progress, is there anything you have currently work in progress in your business?
It's a good question. Well, at the moment, I am really excited by the fact that I've done this pivot to solo founders for the last sort of couple quarters now. So I'm really excited by different things I'm doing right now. Like I've been lucky to work on AI a lot in my background and profession, like coming from the tech space. So I work with lots of AI businesses, and I'm thinking from like big companies who are really working on cutting edge stuff. And I've been dabbling with AI since 2020. So for me, I'm trying to find new ways to help solo founders better understand these tools. So I'm really excited by like the prospect of that. And me and my husband, he works as an AI product consultant. So he like works on the big tech products. So we're like, well, how can we like distill some of that kind of jargon and technical stuff and like make it more democratized for solo founders? So I'm working on more content around that. I just did an Ask Her Anything session recently about it. I want to make it not feel so scary, because I think working in marketing, like, well, why you're not scared of AI tools? Like it's like, you do copywriting. Well, actually, for me, it's strategy. And I think lots of solo founders can really, so many tools out there that if used, responsibly, can be super helpful. So that's something that I'm working on more. And I'm excited for more content around that in the next few months. For me, I just released a DIY homepage guide of everything I've talked about in the session. So if you are like, oh, I don't know if I can invest in one-to-one messaging, but I want to learn a bit more about messaging, it's like $8.99, and you get like all that's a strategic like thought starters you can ask yourself when coming up with your copy across your homepage. And at the end of it, there's some video walkthroughs of some like high converting homepages. So that means that you get to see it in practice and how it's done in the market with some like successful websites. And I even put my own website under scrutiny there as well. So if you're interested to see how I came up with mine. And then the main thing is that I always do Brave Bird Boosts, which I've talked about a lot in these sessions. So I work one-to-one with solo founders and also startups as well on their positioning, on their messaging. You get like over 2 hours of strategy workshops, and then I go away and I write all your copy for you, which is always a treat. I always love doing that. And my background is before I even went into all of this, I did a bit of journalism and I did a creative writing master's as well. So I love using that storytelling background. I really bring that to my clients. So and that's Brave Bird Boost. And it's people who are ready to invest in that, they've maybe been in business a little bit longer, I suggest like that's a service for you. So yeah,
Oh,
that's everything about me.
brilliant. This is great. I really had so much fun talking to you. I
Me
always
too.
do, to be
Yes.
fair.
I always love bumping into you, and you're always with your camera, and you're always like, like you're such a good photographer. So I love that we met that way as well, like at an event.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for, giving me your time. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. To all the listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments or you can get in touch with Tanya over social or her website. All the links will be in the show notes. And I talk to you soon, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.